Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the show. This is the Top Keck Podcast, and we have not been posting in a while because we have had a very busy couple of weeks. Last week, we took a trip up to where I grew up, New Hampshire, Maxie's first time in the state of New Hampshire, the free country.
Goddamn right.
And he's going to share some of his observations and thoughts on the whole experience, as well as we'll probably still just do the normal bullshitting that we always do. And why don't you take us away there, Maxie?
Rock and roll. So what is going on, guys? It is good to be back. I'll tell you what. It's good to be back in Maryland, but it's also good to be back on the podcast. So I have a ton of different thoughts, man, and I actually kind of wanted to write some of them out because you know, I think I'm a very deeply thinking person. And it was really interesting for this trip because my kind of goal going into it, when Nick and I had discussed this, is I was basically just going to be a passenger. I was just there to take it in. I don't care where we go. I don't care what we do. I got my lobster roll. That was the only thing I wanted to fucking do. But other than that, I was like, whatever. We're just going to do whatever. I'm going to take all this in. I'm just going to appreciate it for what it is and just be there for the ride. So there were a couple different observations that I made. About the culture and the experience as a whole, I think is the best way to describe it. And I think I would really describe it as a general New England experience, because we did go to Maine for a bit. And of course we passed through fucking everything on our way down.
First time I was in Maine, actually, having lived in New Hampshire for 12 years, and I never went into Maine, which is weird.
Yeah. And Maine was fucking rad, man. I really liked the Portland area.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. It was a beautiful area to go through. The lighthouse, we saw a lighthouse. It was fantastic. It was colder than shit.
Negative 20 with the wind.
We were dying. Oh my God, it was horrible. And we're walking out to this lighthouse, like on a jetty.
On the fucking, yeah.
On a jetty, like in the middle as waves are crashing up on us. It was an experience to say the least. So let's kind of start from the beginning. The more sort of obvious things, right? So we have the sort of, I guess geological might be the right way to describe that, but the scenery essentially. So I've done a little bit of traveling. I've done a little bit of hiking. Believe it or not, I was a Boy Scout.
Where did they touch you?
Right on the tip of my pecker and then my butthole. I actually had a really cool scoutmaster who was not a weirdo at all. Well, he was a fucking weirdo, but he wasn't like a creep. You kind of have to be a fucking weirdo to be in Boy Scouts. Anyways. But so I've done camping, you know, I've been to like the Blue Ridge Mountains. I've been camping in Pennsylvania. I've been camping all over. I think we've been to West Virginia. I don't even remember, but we've been over God's green earth, right? So I've done some camping. I've been in the wilderness, right? I've been out there. I've roughed it before. And the one thing I noticed, of course, other than the obvious, right, is New Hampshire, and especially the drive to New Hampshire up through the mountains. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And it's really, if you can take the time to appreciate it, because that's kind of my goal, is I wanted to actually appreciate the beauty for what it was. If you can actually take the time to appreciate it and like, I don't know, take everything in, it's a very raw and very visceral experience. You know, and I guess I kind of realized too is like, you know, I was born and raised in Maryland, and not the rural part of Maryland. I was born and raised in the suburbs. I spent quite a bit of time in the city, whether it be Baltimore City. I've spent some time in D.C., you know, and different areas that are closer to those two cities, right? And so, I don't know. I'm just used to convenience. You know, I'm used to things being close to me. I'm used to, you know, there isn't much that I need that's out of a 30-minute drive from where I am right now, and where I grew up too. And so it's like, I don't know, it's very odd as we start to drive further and further out, and I'm like, we're in the middle of fucking Narnia, right?
I'd say I grew up for the first 14 years of my life, maybe actually more, probably like 16, 17 years of my life, unable to order food in. Like any food I had to get, we had to go out and get.
Yeah. There's no such thing as a pizza. That blew my fucking mind. He's like, oh yeah, they don't deliver pizza. I'm like, what? What do you mean you don't deliver pizza? Yeah, it's fucking crazy. So the obvious thing is everything is much more spread out, right? The scenery is beautiful. You know, the sort of the bridges and the mountains. And when you go into New Hampshire, there was this, I just remember we were driving and there was this, we're up on the highway and we're basically riding along the ridge of a mountain. And it's just this long open where you can see out for miles and miles. It was clear. And it was just like, it was like a, I don't know. It was like the beginning of like a horror movie where they get trapped in some fucked up dimension, but it was like you're entering a new world. You know what I mean? It was like this beautiful rolling landscape with a river down, and it was fantastic. I just am sitting in the truck just looking dumb, like taking it all in, and it was really something I haven't. Like I said, I've been hiking, I've been on mountains, I haven't seen anything quite like it. So that was, hands down the best experience, I think, was just taking in the sights and, driving around. We're driving through the woods to get everywhere. And I don't know, it's like being physically removed from your world and your regular routine is a powerful thing, I think. So I guess the next logical thing that I was expecting, but not to the level I was expecting, was the difference in culture that I noticed. And we met with a handful of different people that, Nick's family and that Nick grew up with, and just he was catching up with them, but I'm taking notes in my head, right? I'm just like noticing differences, noticing things, and, just appreciating the time for what it was. And I think the key takeaway for me was the difference in how people process information and how they live their lives. And I think the best way that I can describe this is I'm personally so worried about retirement, money, buying a house, career stuff, worried about my parents. Relationship stuff. I'm like, go all the time, 24/7. I'm thinking about what's going on tomorrow. I'm thinking about, what's going on a week, a month, a year, 10 years, right? All that. And I didn't meet a single person in New Hampshire that wasn't just worried about what was going on in that current moment. It was Nick is back. We're glad to see him. He brought his friend along. And we're just chatting. And it was, they were so present in the moment that it made me present in the moment, if that makes sense. Because you could just tell, like when you go to Starbucks in Maryland and you order coffee or like whatever you're doing, it's transactional, right? It's yeah, how you doing? I'm good, blah, blah. Let me get a venti, these fucking nuts, whatever, right? In New Hampshire, it seems to me that when I would ask a question or when they would ask me a question or we were just having conversation, there was a genuine level of connection. It's almost as if I've known these people for quite some time, just on how connected I felt and how engaged they seemed to be in my life, in their own life, in the day-to-day world. And it was something that I can only attest to, like a difference in their philosophy and family, and there's a lot stronger of a family culture, I think, if that makes any sense, and maybe you can speak on that a little bit, Nick, what it was like growing up, because it seemed like you were very much involved with your family up there.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I've said this in a previous episode, but I am not really a family person. There was spans there that I didn't talk to my dad, who lived 15 minutes away, for like months at a time. I didn't see him. I was just doing my thing. I'm not a super family-oriented guy, but I did grow up being family-oriented in a way, I guess. My mom and stepdad worked all the time, so when I wasn't in school, I was at my aunt's house or like my grandparents' house or something. And that's kind of just what we did. We hung out with my cousins all the time. We were outside doing just kid shit, digging for salamanders and snakes and frogs and God knows what else.
Backwoods shit.
Yeah, like it's a little bit based up in New Hampshire, and I didn't really realize it growing up there because that's just all I ever knew. But I am fairly close with all of my cousins and extended family in a way. I was very happy to see them, their spouses, my aunts and uncles, etc., etc. It was very cool because it's been a couple years now at this point that I haven't been able to see them. I only talk to them little bullshit things here and there on Facebook. And that was kind of weird because I grew up. I was at their houses more than I was at my house, probably. Um, my cousins babysat me when I was a kid. We went to the same schools, so I don't think I went more than a couple days without seeing someone in my family. And now I go, like I said, months at a time. I've been a lot better about it. I try to go out to breakfast and stuff with my dad like once every week, 2 weeks. Um, and it did make me realize how, I don't really want to say despondent, but I can't think of a better word I am about that. And tangent, I have started thinking a lot more about family since yesterday I got stuck in a traffic jam caused by a tanker or like a petroleum fuel truck going off the road. There's a large fire. The driver didn't make it, and his nephew was in traffic behind us, so obviously he came up and was distraught to say the least. And then they brought in the driver's wife, and as soon as they saw each other, they're hugging and crying. And I'm not an extremely emotional person. I don't cry very much, but I almost started crying right there in public in front of everybody because it was just so heart-wrenching. And I went home and I definitely had a hard time thinking about it because the only thing I could think about is what was the last thing he said to his wife? When was the last time he talked to that nephew? It really gets you thinking. Seeing something like that is horrific, to say the least. I'll try and put a picture of the wreck in some sort of on here, I guess. I don't know how to do that at the moment, but it definitely had made me thought a lot more deeply about family and how much, despite not trying to be around them very much, family and friends are extremely important to me. Like, I don't know what I'd do without Max. I don't know what I'd be able to.
Love you, buddy.
Like my dad, he helps me out more than I can even say. One of the biggest inspirations in my life, and to this day, he still, anytime I need something, it doesn't matter if he's out fishing, if he's at work, anything, he's got my back. And I appreciate that, and I don't say it nearly enough. And I think people need to take a minute and tell their family they love them, talk to them. Whenever you're leaving for the day or something, tell them you love them. That's my mom growing up always did say, like, make sure you say you love someone less when you leave because you don't know if it could be the last time. And like as a kid, obviously I'm brushing that off, like, yeah whatever, blah blah blah. But that really did hit home after yesterday. It was 2 hours of sitting there watching a fire burn with this lady's husband in it. There's no other word aside from horrific.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where I stand on the family-oriented part of New Hampshire.
Yeah, and it's, growing up, so for me personally, I don't think I was particularly connected with my family, my immediate family to a certain degree. My brother and I are not very close. I don't speak to him very much. He lives in California. My parents, I talk to my parents regularly, but I never really had a good relationship with them until I was an adult, until my 20s. I didn't, I'm 25, my early 20s. I didn't have a good relationship with my parents. I didn't like them. I didn't like living at their house. They kicked me out at one point. We had our differences and they seemed, irreconcilable at the time. And so anyways, it was just kind of interesting to see that because I'm building a relationship with my parents now and we have boundaries and they see me as an adult. I'm still, like my mom always tells me, I'm the youngest. My mom always tells me, oh, you're always going to be my baby. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But like, I'm a grown ass man. I'm 25 years old. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I don't know, I guess our relationship is evolving. And it's kind of something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, but on my dad's side, on my extended family, they're extremely devout Catholic. And I pretty much reject organized religion as a whole. I was raised Catholic. I was an altar boy, baptized, confirmed, the whole spiel, did Sunday school. My dad taught Sunday school. He's still in the choir. My father's still very, very devout Catholic. And so, I've found a hard time identifying with them in a lot of ways. I remember when gay marriage was on the docket to be discussed. This was like 2012 or whatever, right? Something like that. It was during the Obama administration. I think it was the second term of the Obama administration. I just remember thinking in my head, like, because they were talking about how it was like an abomination and marriage between a man and a woman and da-da-da. And in my head, I'm just like, I just remember thinking, like, why do we care? Like, no one in this room is gay. So, like, why do we give a shit? Like, it just, I just couldn't process it. Like, who gives a fuck? But anyway, so I have found a way to relate to them and appreciate them. And, my uncle on that side who I was closest with had passed away since then. And after that happened, I kind of got some realization. But, on my mom's side, I don't see them much. I connect with them pretty well. I talk to my cousins and shit. But, it's just kind of weird. Like, so when you're sort of thrust into this tight-knit community sort of family environment, it kind of makes you, like Nick was saying, like reassess your where you stand with your family. And I just found myself comparing, and I think from a sort of objective neutral standpoint, I wasn't like, oh, they do this and it's bad, or they do this and it's good, or or saying I do the right or wrong thing. It was just a mere observation of the difference, and I think that's valuable, is to connect with your family. Given certain circumstances, right? If your family's like toxic, if you're gay and they're like devout Catholic and they fucking hate you, like, okay, yeah, that's kind of...
It is okay to cut off your family if they are toxic.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's the thing is, like, there are a lot of people that are narcissistic. They have borderline personality disorder. They have legitimate, even if they're just toxic, like some people cannot be mentally ill and just be fucking toxic. You're not obligated to drown with them. If you're a lifeguard, they tell you to approach people with your feet first. And that's a gesture that says, I'll save you, but you don't get to drown me on the way. And if it's we drown or you drown, it's you drown. And that's not cruelty. That's wisdom. But assuming, and I kind of actually want to specifically jump into that a little bit, because we made a handful of different stops. And I saw quite a range, let's just say. I met a range of individuals.
Feel free to go as in-depth as you please. Anything to do with my family is not off limits.
Okay, well, I was just going to say, it's like, and it was all good stuff. Like, I have nothing but positive things to say, by the way. But just like the first stop, so that was your aunt and your uncle's house. And we roll up. So first of all, dirt road, right? And I'm just like, we're in East Jabib, right? So we roll up, and we missed it, actually. So we had to loop back around and take the same road again, which is hilarious to me. And it's been so long. Obviously, Nick doesn't remember off the top of his head. He was pretty spot on. We just made a wrong turn.
Yep.
But I just remember we pull up, and there's like cars strewn all over the place, And we pull up, and there's a garage where he, does some mechanical work. And it's just like a regular, I guess it's a house. It's kind of similar to a double wide trailer in length and proportion.
It's like a rancher home, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like a little compact. And we pull up, and he's tending to his mules, and he just glances over at us and just like keeps on getting it, like whatever. So we get out the truck and we walk over and we're talking to him, introduce ourselves. And he's just talking about, oh, yeah, we're getting ready for the winter, or we're getting ready for the spring, and da-da-da, doing some cleaning and baling hay, and da-da-da. And in my head, I'm like, oh, yeah, people, like, work for a living out here. Like, office jobs are not a thing. And we go inside, and we're talking to his aunt, and, she was, of course, ecstatic to see us. Are you hungry? Have you eaten? The whole spiel. The hospitality was fantastic. They were awesome. Just great to talk to. And, we're just shooting the shit and talking about how Nick grew up and, all that fun stuff. And, it was interesting. I think the first thing was, just sort of like the takeaways I got or the big one was, I just remember your aunt talking about you being a kid, and that when you were over at her house, you got to be a kid. And what that means is, like he was saying, they would go out and they're playing, they're getting dirty, they're rolling around in the mud, they're picking up snakes and throwing them in coolers, and just all kind. They're just out there, they're just being kids, they're exploring, right? They are finding out the world in a way that only kids can do on their own. Adults can only guide children so much. And I thought that was really fascinating because my parents were super overprotective growing up. I didn't get to do much, you know. I had to sneak off to play airsoft with my friends because it was too dangerous. This is a funny sidebar. I still roast my dad for this, by the way. My dad, I remember my dad specifically telling me when I was a kid, or when I was maybe a teenager, early teenager, like 12, 13, 14 years old, he didn't want me to play airsoft with my friends because he didn't want me to get the idea that shooting people, whether it was with a plastic gun or a real gun, was a good idea. I am so dead ass. I am not trolling one bit. And so like I would do it anyways because I'd fuck them. Like I'd just do what I fucking wanted. But it like I just like at the time I was like, that is retarded. Like there's no world in which, anyways. And now it's funny because I have guns now. But and I'm very, so you asked Nick, I'm very conscientious about gun safety. I'm always very responsible with my firearms, at least as much as I can be. But it was just interesting to sort of like let kids be kids, and that it presented itself in such a way that it was like a duh thing. But when she said it, I was just like, huh, that's something you don't think about ever, you know, let alone every day. And I think I really took something away from your uncle's, his sort of work ethic, and he was just talking about, and he wasn't complaining. He was simply mentioning, right? Just like you know, if you sit two blue collar guys down in a bar and they get to talking, they got plenty to say, and they're not complaining. You know, they're just telling the shitty reality of what they do for a living, you know, or whatever. And he was like, yeah, I got back problems and it's hard, but I still got to go out there and work, and I still got to do all this. And it was just interesting because he wasn't complaining. He was just saying, yep, it's the reality of the situation. It is what it is. I'm still out there providing for my family, doing what I need to do. And I admire that a lot because that's kind of a lost thing now, you know? And the relationship with animals. So he had the two mules. I don't remember if you said, I remember growing up, you said they were like pigs and other such animals. You're going to tell me in here.
Growing up, they always had dogs. I think I remember them having like 5 dogs. They had a kennel for like 5 of them. One was indoors, that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if they ever had pigs and stuff because
I think you might have been talking about butchering a pig. Maybe that was
oh yeah, he did. He did say he had a few that he butchered, and I'm sure they had chickens and stuff because everyone gets chickens.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, chickens are dope. But the sort of relationship with animals, right, is, you know, I never spent that much time around animals. We had a bird growing up, like, you know, never had a dog, I'm allergic to cats, but never had a cat. But it was just interesting, the relationship, because he also was talking about going hunting, and that's something I've been thinking about, you know, a bunch, to sort of, because I have guns, and I think there's a philosophical reality that has to be addressed with hunting, you know, and not many people think about it. And Nick's been hunting, and Nick has shot plenty of animals, but, you know, something that I would say people who are from the suburbs might not consider is the reality of taking an animal's life, and the sort of implication and the effects of that it can have on your conscience, maybe. And it's just a difference in how we were raised. It's not like a bad thing. I'm sure Nick has probably thought about it at some point in his life, but it's not like, you know, but it's just something I have contemplated much recently. And then he brought up, you know, oh, we're doing a hunt and da. And in my head, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of want to, like, I'd be down to like try hunting or think about it or whatever. So I'm like, they're talking, I'm like off in La La Land. And then I found out that they were talking about hunting black bears. And I was like, that's a thing that people do. That sounds fucking lit. So I was like immediately sold. I was like, black bear, I'm gonna kill me a black bear. I am the apex predator. So there's a possibility that Nicholas and I are gonna go shoot some motherfucking black bears in fall, and I'm like fucking here for it. But anyways, so I just, you know, that was an interesting sort of relationship, is the sort of keeping of animals and having animals around the home. And then there's also the sort of relationship with hunting animals. And, you know, as I told Nick, is for me, if I kill something, it's just like the Native Americans, right? I've talked about how it's like using every part of the animal, you know, it's like, I fully recognize that if I shoot a black bear, I am killing that bear almost entirely for sport. Almost entirely. That is just the reality of the situation. I would eat some bear meat because fuck it, but like them shits get up to be 600 plus pounds. What the fuck am I gonna do with 600 pounds of black bear meat? And the reality of the situation is, I would have his uncle deal with that and give it away, and I would take, I don't know, 10 pounds home or whatever, and like make all my friends eat it, not tell them it's bear because it's fucking funny. But we're gonna make beer battered bacon bear burgers is what we were coming up with on the way home. But yeah, so anyways, I just thought about that. I was like, I dead ass, because I'm fucking corny like that, I would tan that fucking hide, and that bitch would sit right in my fucking living room, and I would keep the mouth and shit on it. So when you go take a piss at like 2 o'clock in the morning or go get some water, you step in that bitch's mouth and cut the shit out of your foot. Like real shit, son. I'm gonna kill me a fucking bear. But that was sort of an interesting thing, is like I didn't, and he like said, he's like, oh yeah, well, you know, it's a little thing I do. Is some grandmother paid for her grandson to go out, and he's gonna sit up in the tree stand with him. I guess they were talking about.
That's it. My uncle owns a guide service, so he's licensed to take people out hunting. He does a lot of youths, which he likes doing a lot because they haven't hunted before and stuff. He's the one who took me out first. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fucking rad, and it's again something you don't think about when you live in fucking suburbia, right? And I was like, yeah, hunt some fucking bears, right? Like that's fucking metal. So I told my mom, thinking she'd freak out, and she's like, that's fucking cool. And I'm like, we're out here. And I was talking to Nick, I was like, what other big things can we shoot? Because I want to get like a big ass like 338 Lapua Magnum fucking rifle and just fucking blast shit out of a tree stand. He's like, oh, we could hunt caribou and we could hunt elk. We'll do the Joe Rogan, hunt some fucking elk. Grizzlies, which are scary as fuck.
Yeah, that's a scary one for sure.
I don't know if you know anything about grizzly bears, but them shits get, I think they're 1,200 pounds. Don't quote me on that. That might be bullshit. But they get to be fucking huge.
At least 900 plus.
Yeah. Go fuck your mom. Dude, I'm about it though. Like, I really, because you think about it, if you fucking knock a grizzly's, and I don't know, can you bait those? Can you bait bears?
Yeah.
So if you can bait bears, it's kind of, you just fucking bait them. You just sit in a tree stand and bow, right? I mean, that's pretty straightforward. I don't know. And the thing about bears too is, from what I've seen, because I went down a YouTube rabbit hole one time. This is a sidebar, but I was watching the different, like, I guess black bears and brown bears have different demeanors and stuff like that. So anyways, we were thinking about that and got talking about that. And brown bears are, is it black bears that can climb trees? I think black bears can climb trees.
Black bears can climb trees very well.
Yeah, so black bears just be climbing fucking trees. You know what I'm saying? So just imagine, like, I'm just picturing like a luau situation where you're held up in a fort, but you're like shooting down on a bear with a fucking SKS because he, like, you whiffed the first shot, and he's like, I'm finna eat that motherfucker. So anyways, but it's just again, these are things you don't think about. And like, I came back to work and I was like, guys, I want to kill a fucking bear. And they're like, what did the fuck happened in New Hampshire that you want to kill a bear now? You know, but it's just like, it's crazy, man. And like, yeah. So anyways, I am going to, let's see. Yep. So it was just, I guess the biggest takeaway was just like from the first stop was the importance of hard work and doing good, honest work, taking care of your family, you know, raising your kids. And I think their kids turn out pretty fucking well, in my opinion. They seem to all be working hard and doing the right thing. And so to me, it's like, good job, bravo, you win, right? The next stop was Ollie. So you're going to have to do some explaining who the fuck was there, because I can't keep track of all that tomfoolery. So it was her husband, right?
Yeah. And then
their 2 kids.
Yeah, they've got, or the older one is with another guy, and then they have a daughter as well. Mm-hmm. And then there is one of their friends who I can't remember his name for the life of me because I'm bad with names.
I remember his kid's name.
He's got 2 kids there too, the daughter and Carl.
Good old Carl. So this was a radical shift now, because we have pulled off the side of on a back road. We've gone over a small bridge where Nick informed me that he was almost assassinated by a crab for the first time when he was a wee lad.
A crab in New Hampshire, like, who would have thought?
Who'd have fucking and this is like a river. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't even like a fucking, we're nowhere near the ocean.
We are hours from the ocean.
Lord knows, right? Maybe they tried to eat it and it got away. Who the fuck knows? So we drive over and we're like literal just dirt road, just in Nick's fucking F-150, and I'm just like, God damn, my head's like flailing all over the fucking place. And we pull off, and they have a nice small little house.
I'd say that was my aunt and Uncle Jeff and Lisa's house growing up. That was where we were out doing kid shit.
And so so we pull up on this little house and we're saying what's up, and they got a dog who's, outside, and he's tied up to a pole, and I'm like, I'm gonna go say hi to the dog. He's jumping all over me, covering the front of me in mud. Yeah, I mean, this dog was so fucking excited he couldn't even see straight. He's running around in circles. He's tripping over his own feet and rolling and jumping up on me. He was animated, to say the least. So anyways, we go inside and we're talking. Nick and them are all catching up, and there's 4 small children just running around this small house. It probably was the size of my apartment, maybe, Nick.
Yeah, probably.
A little bit bigger, maybe. And I have I have a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, like 710 square foot apartment, I think it is. So these kids, just to give you an idea, it's very compact, and these kids are all running around. There's a movie playing, and then the adults are like chatting, hanging out, whatever. And there were a couple interesting takeaways from that, because I really kind of focused on the children here, because Ollie and her husband were cool, and the other gentleman was pretty, they were, again, very welcoming. They're, come on in. Do you need anything? Do you want anything to eat? You want anything to drink? Whatever. Just super welcoming, the whole spiel. And, I just couldn't help but notice, because I never really, like, other than when you're a kid, right? Like, in my adult life, I never spent a ton of time around children. I pretty much work, and that's it. I work. And even when I was like, running out and partying and shit, I was working and going to bars. Like, that's all I was doing, was working and going to bars. And I never spent a ton of time around kids, And so I didn't know how to, like, I am now learning how to, like, behave around children. And, like, if somebody handed me a kid, I would just, like, what do I do with it? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just, like, holding, like, this child, and I'm just looking at him like, I don't know what to do with it. And it's just staring at me, drooling on itself, like, what the fuck to do? So these kids are obviously a little older than that. I think 3, 4, 5, somewhere in that wheelhouse.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5 years old. There were 4 children running around of varying ages. And so they're running around, and it's interesting because you first walk in and they're like looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy? And then they're kind of like, they'll like come out a little bit and they'll go back into their room, and they'll come out a little bit and they'll go back into their room. And then they're playing with their toys and stuff. And so at this point, I'm just like spaced out watching these children, just like trying to figure out, you know what I mean? Because I don't fucking know kids. Like, I'm still trying to figure them out, And these little kids are running around. And it was interesting. I was watching a lecture on child development some years ago. And I remember I think it was a Jordan Peterson lecture, actually. But he was talking about how children socialize one another, and how important that rough and tumble play is with children, and the socialization of children. And so all of these children are very well socialized, meaning that they're playing by each other's rules. They're going back and forth and whatever. So anyways, at some point throughout the course of this, our visit there, this small child named Carl, okay, which is an inside joke for those who don't know. It's a work joke. Carl from Laurel is how I fuck with telemarketers. I say that my name is Carl and I'm from Laurel. And so anyways, this kid's named Carl. Me and Nick are looking at each other like trying not to bust out laughing, and no one would fucking get it anyways. It would be funny to no one but us. And he's like, he just looks at me and goes, "Hey," and I'm like, "What's up, little man?" And he's like, "Guess which hand this screwdriver is in?" And I'm like, in my head, I'm just like, "What the fuck are you?" You know what I mean? Like, I'm an adult. I'm just like, kid, this is a stupid fucking game. Well, his little friend's behind him and is showing me which hand it's in. So I'm just guessing back and forth. He's like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "I got x-ray vision, bro. I'm a superhero." And this kid's like 3. I'm blowing his fucking mind, right? So at some point, the game then evolved. And so to tie this in, this is the lecture, right? Is the invitation to play, and then the creation of rules. So that we then established a rule set where there are 3 of us standing in a line, and there is 1 guy standing facing them. And we are passing screwdrivers behind one another in order to not let the other person who's standing adjacent to us guess where the screwdriver is. Now, I'm basically a child, but I'm 25. So I'm smart. So I'm winning this game immaculately. But it's interesting how, as you play with the children, you have to let them win, right? And you have to play along with them. And it's interesting that if we're, to tie back into sort of being in the moment, is these kids aren't worried about shit. They're not worried about school. They're not worried about paying bills. Okay. They're not worried about what's going on in high school, if they're going to get a car when they're older. None of that shit. They are worried about this big goofy dude wearing a beanie who's covered in mud, passing screwdrivers to others' children behind their backs, right? And so that was a sort of fascinating experience, is that, the kids that I know, the children that I know in Maryland, they have iPads. They have cell phones, they have iPhones. They have their own laptop computers, they have their own rooms, And these children, who I'm not going to cast aspersions, but they're not exactly upper middle class like I grew up, right? They're just delighted with the fact that they can play this silly game that they've happened to create on the fly with a stranger. And just were upset when I was like, all right, we got to roll out, And so it was a very interesting experience, is engaging with these children and watching them interact with one another. And just knowing that if these kids were born in Howard County, different fucking story. No way. Entitled, privileged, right? These kids would be upset if their parents took their iPhone away. I'm talking 5, 6, 7-year-old kids, right? Would just lose their minds if they had to play a game with a screwdriver. They'd be like, I'm not playing that fucking game. Fuck you. I want my iPad back. So it's the invitation to play and the importance of socializing children that was fascinating. But it's also the underlying theme of being present in the moment and being grateful and appreciating what you have. That even extends to the small children. So that was kind of fascinating. I don't know if you have anything to say about that, Nick. But...
No, I was sitting there talking with my cousin and her husband and their friend most of the time while Max played with the children. I was catching up, just doing my thing. I was watching. I grew up like that. We grew up doing the exact same shit. I still thought it was weird that I was like, these kids are going to poke their eye out with the screwdriver or something. Meanwhile, while I'm sitting there talking, the youngest, the daughter, she's, I'm terrible. I guess second cousin. I don't remember this kid's name.
Kyla?
No, Kyla was a family friend. She's like also some distant cousin, I think.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. The other one. The other girl.
Yeah. But
I can't remember her name, but anyways,
so she can't talk or anything really, maybe a couple words here and there, but she's like throwing this rubber ball around, and I'm kicking it and like bouncing it off her head, bouncing off the walls, she playing with it, and she's dying. She's loving it. Like, cannot get enough. And it is like kids around here. I know a couple of my friends have kids, and their kids have iPads, like you said. It is just get out of my face, play with this. And that's not how it is in New Hampshire.
That ain't no way to raise a kid.
Yeah. And that's part of the issue with this whole homeschooling COVID thing, is that kids aren't getting the socialization they need. Kids are going to grow up developmentally stunted because of this year plus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's an interesting thing too, is, and so my mother works in the school system. I'm not going to specify, but she works in a school system. Saint of a woman, by the way, nothing like me. If you're somehow watching this and trying to like bring it back on her, my mother's a fucking saint. All right. And we can box. See me outside, bitch. So
I got it on me.
I got it on me. If I had it literally on me, I would brandish it, but it's over in the room. I probably should I'm a bad gun owner. I just keep an unlocked gun with hollow points in it right next to my bed. But she would talk about, so in this privileged school district that she works in, which will remain nameless because generally Maryland is pretty wealthy, so there are a lot of privileged school districts. She just talks about how these fucking kids are pistols and these parents are doing fuck all, and they're just letting their kids be shit pieces and run around and whatever. And I just got to thinking, when we were there, Ali was talking about how her son is ADHD like crazy, bouncing off the walls. And then she's made it a situation where she's doing the online learning and then she's like doing games with him outside to keep him engaged. And in my head, I'm just like, that's fucking genius, number one. Number two, there's no one in Maryland that's doing that. And their kids are just bouncing off the walls acting a fool because I see my mom on these Zoom calls. Like when I was like at the beach with her or whatever, she's whenever she's working. I'll just ask them like, these little kids are fucking shitters. And like their parents are sitting next to them and they're just like being shitters and like talking when they're not supposed to be talking. And I fucking smack that kid upside their fucking head. But it's like, again, it's just, there's a dedication to the family and there's a dedication to improving the situation, the sort of selfless, you're improving their life so they can have what you didn't, or even have better than what you have now, even if it's sufficient, or whatever the case may be. And it's fascinating. It's again something that sadly I haven't seen too much of as I've raised. And my parents did everything they could for me. They were fantastic, right? It's not my parents I'm casting aspersions towards. It's others that live in the same area as I do. So children, man, kids are interesting. And then we went to Jason's, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jason and Aaron's was next.
Yeah, so you can talk a little bit about that because I don't fuck with animals like that. But yeah.
Yeah, so
that's your wheelhouse.
Part of how I grew up, obviously, like I said, playing outside, catching all kinds of critters from squirrels to snakes to everything else. Animals have become a pretty large part of my personality. I learn about animals almost on a daily basis, and I talk about animals guaranteed on a daily basis. And part of that was from Jason. Like, he's the one who grew up. He's a couple of, 3-4 years older than me. Grew up showing me how to do shit. Their house...
it's a wildlife refuge.
Yeah. It's a beautiful house, like log home off...
Gorgeous.
Off in the cut, and they've got 5 or 6 dogs. There's a German Shepherd, Frenchies, Pit, all kinds, and it was love dogs. And then you move on to the other things, like 5 snakes ranging from that big to 6 feet. And they said, oh, I'm hoping it only gets to 14, 15 feet so the dwarf part of its genes kick in. I'm like, what kind of snake you got that is dwarf at 15 feet?
Hey, bro, that is the snake from the Bible. That's a distant ancestor, bro. What are we doing? Yeah.
And so I'm standing there holding the snake, talking and everything. Max is talking. He looks over. Snake's reaching out towards him.
So I'm standing probably 4 or 5 feet from Nick, and I'm not a big snake person. I'm not oh my god, there's a snake. I'm not freaking out, but I'm not super big. I'm not gonna hold the snake.
He doesn't fuck with snakes.
I'm not a big snake guy. You know what I mean? It's just not my thing. So I'm on my phone, I'm talking to Jason, and I glance over. Nick's to my right. I glance over, and the snake, Nick's holding the snake all coiled up around his arms, and the snake is extending out towards me, and I'm just like, "What's up, bro? What can I do for you?" He's making his way over to say what's up. It was interesting, but
so obviously having snakes, they have a freezer full of freeze-dried rats mixed in with other people food it's nothing, because that's just how it is up there. They had a betta fish, which was kind of irrelevant because it's fish.
Yeah, he's vibing out though.
They have 4 tarantulas, little itty bitty ones.
I was expecting them to be much larger than big.
Yeah, I know people in Maryland. I have friends that have bred them and whatever that have tarantulas, like tarantulas.
Yeah,
and
big boy.
Yeah, and so these were cool to see. They were just little tiny, fuzzy, colorful spiders, And like, I'm not a big bug person, but I still like that kind of stuff. I learned about arachnids and reptiles and amphibians and stuff. And they had rats too. There's like 2 rats chilling in their cage, climbing around, doing their thing.
Not for food. They're just they're pet rats.
They're pet rats, separate from the freezer rats.
Yes, precisely.
So it was. Cat. Oh yeah, there are 2 cats. They said.
Yeah.
And me, I love cats. Like
every time Nick sees a cat, he's like,
yeah, like it doesn't matter if it's a house cat or a fucking mountain lion. Like I'm a. Like there's a meme that's like, what do you do if you see this? And someone's like, what is the opposite of pss, 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 pss? And I'm like, nah, it's still pss, pss, pss.
Yeah, it's Nick's trying to like fuck with that cat. I'm like,
yeah, like
wouldn't be me.
Come over.
I'm allergic, so I ain't fucking with no cats.
So we could walk upstairs. They show me the dogs, the other snake, and that kind of stuff. So I see a cat, and I'm like, ooh, cat. Immediately scoop it up.
He's holding this cat. The cat's like drooling on itself.
I'd say I can't remember. I had a girl that I dated that told me what that was called because she had a cat that did it. But it's when some cats, when they get extremely happy, they just start to drool. It's just whoa.
Yeah, that cat was happier than shit because he was fucking. Bleh.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. Cats. So yeah, we're like basically in a zoo. And they're a small little. I love French bulldogs, and they're just running around being adorable. And
Aaron is, I believe, got 3 more tests at this point to become a dog trainer, licensed and everything. Super cool. I'm best friends with her brother. We grew up in high school together, or at the beginning of high school, I guess. So I'm relatively close with her family, and having seen her progression from high school to now is really cool. Obviously, Jason, having grown up with him, his progression from a kid to now is really cool. I think they were talking about potentially buying a small pet store, animal store kind of thing, and that's right up their alley.
Certainly. So yeah, that was interesting too, because I never spent, again, too much time around animals. So it's just, I was like, you like live here? You know what I mean? Like it was like this like culture shock to me where I was like, they just have like snakes chilling in it. I don't really fuck with snakes. I've talked to Nick. I'm thinking about getting a dog or a rabbit because I'm fucking depressed, and animals are cool, but like certain animals are cool.
And again, I think I've mentioned this before, but I at one point had 4 cats, like 12 lizards, 6 fish tanks ranging from 10 to 75 gallons. I am an animal person. I had a gerbil there and a hamster too.
Fuck yeah, gerbil.
Gerbils are cool. Gerbils are really cool. You can drop like anything in there and they'll just start eating it.
Yeah.
Like I'd put a whole paper towel tube in there and it's gone.
Yeah. Like a chainsaw. just buzzes right through it.
So animals apparently run in my family.
Yes, they definitely do. And it's just sort of like this culture shock thing where they're just like, yeah, it's a snake, hold it. And I'm like, no, thank you. But, they were cool about it. Nature Man was like, nah, it's all good. But, so that was really cool. And I think Jason is kind of an interesting character as well. Mm-hmm. For obviously living where he lives and doing what he does, but also what he does for a living. So I have never met the per capita of like handymen and like general contractors in New Hampshire has got to be like 1 in 5. They're fucking everywhere. So he just does like sort of general maintenance type stuff on a college campus, if I'm remembering correctly, or college dormitory.
I think he said he's responsible for like 25 college dorms or something like that.
Yeah, so he's like running around doing a whole bunch of different shit. And then it's interesting too because we got to talk, and he found out I'm in the car business in the auto industry, and of course his dad's in the auto industry.
Dad, a mechanic. He grew up doing mechanic shit.
Yeah, and so he's done some body work and like knows his way around it. And so we got to talking. Anyways, I guess one of the work trucks somebody fucked up, and he showed me a picture of what it looked like before, and I'm like, yeah, we'd put a bedside on that. He's like, no, I straightened it. I was like, I mean, I probably wouldn't straighten it, but it could be done. And he was like showing me through. So he showed me, he made incisions, which is like actually like a big no-no, but he made incisions in the metal, and they just want it to be like roughly better. They didn't want it, they're not looking for a fucking
it's a work
dealership
truck.
job. It's a work truck, right? But he made incisions in the metal and beat the panel out. So I was looking at it when he had it metal finished and welded, and I was like, that's pretty fucking good. Like I know a lot of body guys that probably couldn't do that. And he glassed it and two-coated it. I was like, that was a two-coat? He's like, that was a two-coat. I'm like, God damn. Like, that's pretty impressive. And he had it in primer when it was done. And I was just like, I'm not even, like, I'm a stickler for body work. You know what I mean? I pick body work apart. I complain about body work, bad body work all the time. That shit is fucking impressive. Like, would I do it? No. Would I want that coming out of my shop? No, because we have to warranty it. If I didn't have to warranty it, send that motherfucker home. You know what I mean? Let it fucking rip. But it was just interesting. He sort of had this jack of all trades, right, about him, where he was just like, yeah, if it's broken, I'll figure a way to fix it. And it's like a true sort of handyman, like a jack of all trades kind of guy. Like that's sort of those kinds of guys are like a dying breed. It's just he kind of does a little bit everything. He can figure it out, or he knows someone. It's like those kinds of guys are few and far. I don't even know many bodymen that are putting frame rails and shit. They're just like, oh, it's too hard. I can't do that. I can't pull a motor out of a car. You know what I mean? It's like, you work on cars for a living. What are we fucking doing here? But a guy like him, he probably fucking pull a motor out of a truck, no problem, rebuild it. He'll fucking fix a bedside, two-coat it, send it down the road. He'll fucking fix your dorm, whatever. So that was sort of interesting. Where did we go? Oh, you know where we went? We went to go see your other cousin and the girls?
I think first we went to my other aunt's house and her husband, Lynn and Tim.
Yes, I forgot about that. I definitely forgot about that, but I can say a few words on that too. So we showed up, walking, very neatly kept house. Walk in, have a seat, and we're talking, and he's talking about Tim is talking about how you grew up and all that other stuff, and it was very interesting. But he's a sort of a good old-fashioned, work hard, play hard kind of guy, I think is the best way to describe him. And we're just chopping up and talking, and everybody has the same politics in New Hampshire. I'm not gonna air it out, but
based.
Yeah, they're all fucking based up there. They're based as shit.
I love my family.
we're just talking about politics, and it was funny because they say something. And then they look at me to see if I'd be offended. I'm like, nah, dude, I'm probably more right wing than you are. I'm out there, bro. You're good. There's nothing you can say that's gonna hurt my fucking feelings. But it was just really interesting. It's almost endearing. And I work in a blue collar business, so when people get to ranting about the libs, and not that they were doing this, but it's just, to me, it's just sort of endearing. I'm just like, oh, bless your heart, But we got talking about politics and everything else, and it was fascinating. And then he showed us this wonderful, crazy new addition that they put on the house. So you walk out into a garage. It's a 3-bay garage with heated fucking floors. Heated floors. Get the fuck out of here. That is the coolest shit ever.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a boat in there. He's got a Jeep in there. You could eat off the fucking frame in this Jeep. Immaculate. Beautiful Jeep. I think it was XJ Wrangler. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Jeep.
Last year they didn't put the big fender flares on it, and it still only had 50,000 miles on it. This thing was immaculate.
Yeah, 08 or 09. Newer body style, but not brand new.
Mm-hmm.
You could fucking eat off it. And he's got his bikes in there,
Like a Harley he built, and then one he bought and had some work done, so it's faster and better. He's got the ape hangers on the one.
Man, that shit's bad as fuck, man. I'm not even a Harley guy, but that shit is bad as fuck. So he got an outside shower, and that was his big thing. And I was like, that's kind of, I never thought about that. That's kind of fucking cool, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you cut the grass, you just grab a towel, shower outside. Don't have to get the fucking inside shit done.
And that would never fly in Maryland. No shot, right? There some Karen would be on the phone there's a naked man and his dick's huge, whatever. So, I mean, Nick would have that problem. I wouldn't. But we go upstairs, right? So we check out the garage, and I'm drooling all over myself. I'm just this guy's got it made. And then we go upstairs, and there's 2 little bedrooms. And one of them was for his wife. She wanted a craft room. And the other one was sort of his study, I guess I would call it, and also a guest bedroom. And he's it's got a nice little walkout balcony you can walk on, and it was interesting. He had little relics on the walls, you know, like different things that were in, you know, his what was it, his grandfather's marriage license?
I'd say like his great grandfather or something
Yeah.
like that. It was old as
From the
shit.
1800s. It looked like a fucking deed to a house.
Yeah,
It was like Constitution style. It was fucking sick.
It had like art on it. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's the most beautiful marriage license I've ever seen in my life. Like, now they're just like a document, right? But it was like there was art seen in the background, and it looked like it was all
Like calligraphy writing.
Calligraphy, exactly. It was done by a calligrapher. And there were like, you know, little toys from when he was a kid. It was like a little basket that he used as a skateboard and little stuff like that. And I thought that was really fascinating. There's a bunch of old pictures in there. And
I'd say everything up there for him had a story. It was, this came over on the boat from great grandparent or whatever. This was my sled as a kid. This was that. My father had these snowshoes and I've restrung them and used them, and it was very cool.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know, that's the sort of like real, you know, that's like a room dedicated to a life that was lived very well. And he's obviously still alive, right? But it's like it's just sort of a snapshot of different periods, different important periods of his life. And, you know, he's an older gentleman and he's still working, but, you know, it's just kind of like, I worked my ass off. I got some really cool shit, and now I'm just kind of living it up and enjoying it, you know. And like it seems to me that he's got it figured out, you know. He's got it going on. So that was an interesting experience. And of course, again, with the hospitality, just fantastic, you know. It's just great people. And then we moseyed on over to your cousins, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we made our way over yonder and hung out with them, and two small girls. I think 8.
Yeah, 8 and like
6,
7 or 6, something like that.
Yeah. And those fucking girls are a trip, man. Let me tell you, they were funny as shit. And the older one sort of had this very. The younger was much more animated. The older one sort of had this very.
Which is,
I don't want to say stern, but
which is
stoic.
Out of character, actually. They're both usually A, all over me, and B, they're just always screaming, jumping around, that kind of shit.
Yep, I think they had a long day because it was getting late.
They went to the arcade or something that day, and so they were tired.
Yeah, and they're you know, the so funny too. We're just sitting there talking, and her husband's a logger. Like, man is a lumberjack, looks like a lumberjack, just built like a brick shit house, you know, working 12, 13, 14-hour days, just general badassery. He was a trip to talk to too. He's cool as shit. But you know, we got talking about it, motorcycles and shit like that, and that was awesome. Big gun guy, big hunter. And it was, I think the funniest thing I noticed was his daughter, you know, his eldest. She again was like very. She must have been tired, but she had this very like sort of stern, stoic type look on her face, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we went out hunting and we shoot squirrels out the window." So they had these little air rifles, and they're leaned up against their window. And I guess when they see a squirrel, they just take it down and do what they're gonna do with it. And she's like, "Yeah, I killed a squirrel," but it was so funny. It was just like, "Yeah, it's just part of her day. You know, whatever, no big deal." And it's the difference.
I think it was before they were 1. Jed's father got them 22s.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then so the conversation switched over to guns, and of course Nick and I had that motherfucking thing on us when we were out in New Hampshire. We were both concealed carrying
legally.
And, legally, yeah. It's fucking Christ. So we had that bitch on us, and we got talking. So, anyways, he showed him his little 380, the little baby knock your block off joint, and I unholstered my SIG and unloaded it and handed it to him, and he's like, "Oh, you're both carrying?" I was like, "Yeah," and I racked it, and he's like, "One in the chamber?" I'm like, "Is there any other way to carry? Like, what do you think I'm gonna draw and cycle a fucking round, you know?" But so anyways, we were passing the SIG around, and he passed it to the oldest, and she's like holding it and looking at it. She has the best trigger discipline I've ever seen in my life. It was fucking adorable. I just couldn't believe it. And she's like looking at it, and she's like, "I like this," and I'm like, "Yo, I'll get you one of them." It's a little P365 XL I have, compact. And anyways, it was interesting. And then he brought out this fucking pistol, 270 pistol. The fucking break action.
Yeah, I think that's what he said it was.
It's like, this is like a fucking. I feel like I'm about to duel someone with this thing, like fucking Pirates of the Caribbean status. And yeah, it was just interesting. So it was just kind of like, again, he he talked a lot about what it's like working and doing what he does, and the culture of the gun culture and that him and his family have, and taking the girls out hunting. He talks about having a truck gun. Like, that's a funny thing that I never, you never really think about. But he's like, oh yeah, I got it. He's like, if you see anything, his boss told him, if you see anything good out there, just go ahead and shoot it. You can take it home or whatever.
In his machine at work, he has a like a rack for his rifle.
A gun rack.
Right there by his seat, just clip.
Mm-hmm. And just, oh, that's a deer. Bow! Let that motherfucker fly. Like, it's just, it's a different fucking world. It's just something that these are things that you could tell me and you could show me on television, and I still would not be prepared to go out and see it with my own two eyes. And I didn't expect any of this. Again, it was just kind of like, Nick's like, yep, we're going to New Hampshire. We're going to hang out. It's going to be lit. And I'm like, all right, cool. Turn me up. So that was kind of cool, man. Just the meeting everyone and, spending time with your mom. And she's a character, to say the least. She's a trip. Your face was absolutely priceless. I can't wait to watch that back in slow motion. So she's a trip, and of course her boyfriend is very hospitable, and he was a fucking riot too. We got him riled up a couple nights at dinner. He'd had a couple buds, and we were fucking riling him up. But no, I mean, it was cool. It was a fantastic experience going down and meeting your family and seeing the sort of Nick origin story, let's say. So there were two other things that I wanted to touch on, because the second day we had gone down to Portland, Maine, or up, I should say, to Portland, Maine. Went to Becky's Diner. Okay.
Shout out to Becky's Diner. Got some banger ass food.
Oh my fucking God. I got New England clam chowder and a fucking lobster roll with butter. And you can ask Nick. Now, Nick is a pretty picky eater. I'm pretty much down for whatever. I've never had clam chowder, let alone genuine New England clam chowder. And let me tell you something. If you are standing at the front of this diner, right, and you peek around the side of the building, you can see the fucking lobster cages that they caught the lobsters with behind the diner. It is on a fucking port, on the water, smack on the water, right? So I was like, I was there for the lobster roll. So in my head, I'm like, lobster roll, right? And I read, I'm like, oh yeah, a cup of clam chowder. Like, fucking New England clam chowder. Right-handed the man. You can ask Nick. I took a bite of that clam chowder. I was having a fucking crisis. I thought I was gonna cry. Oh my God, dude. I was moaning eating it. It was fucking incredible. I've never had anything like it before. Lobster roll was a fucking beaut. 10 out of 10. I put the whole lobster roll and a cup of clam chowder down, cut some fries. Oh, happier than the pig and shit. It was like $50 out the door. I didn't give a fuck. And I tipped her like 30% too. It was tremendous. It was truly everything I hoped it would be. And then of course we rode through South Portland. Went to go see a lighthouse in person, which was fucking lit. It was cold as shit, but we just kind of drove around and again appreciated the scenes and the sights. And that one bridge that we went over, the drawbridge, was a fantastic view. So
let's see if I can get a picture of that lighthouse up here.
Oh, here we go, Mr. Technical. Oh my
man, that is not how I wanted to do it.
That's not the one. This is where we edit a picture of the lighthouse into the audio. Yes. You are now looking at a picture of a lighthouse, and that is one we went to. It was in this general area.
Yeah,
and it was.
I'll do that in post.
Yeah, in post. We'll save it. We'll leave it to post. That's what we always do. We'll leave it to post. So, but yeah, it was. Maine was an incredible experience. It was beautiful up there. I can compare Maine to the sort of the layout of Maine was like driving through downtown Annapolis. It was very similar in the sort of the architecture, the layout. And it kind of makes sense because it's like, Northeast United States, similar architecture, but it was fantastic. And, even driving through Connecticut and some other places on the way down, Pittsburgh and Baltimore and other similar types of cities, again, along the Eastern Seaboard, very similar architecture. And it's, I don't know if endearing is the right word, but it's kind of like, oh, that kind of looks like, where my dad grew up in Overly or whatever. So That was pretty cool. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on is the should we talk about the smoothie situation?
Oh yes, the smoothies.
The smoothie situation. Okay, I just want to make sure you were cool with it because I'm cool with it. But
No, yeah, obviously, like I don't give a fuck. Like,
yeah, I know. I just wanted to check, just because I'm trying not to. Well, I guess we could edit it out too.
Like I live with a retired cop, and I told him about it.
So Nick and I bought explosives from some dude in a cabin in the middle of the fucking woods. This is the most libertarian shit I've ever done. This is fucking hilarious. So the last day me and Nick are there, we're fucking dicking around. We're riding around looking for shit to do. We're like, oh, we'll go to a fucking gun store. So we go to a gun store, we're running around bullshit. And we were thinking about possibly buying a gun, but the way it was just not worth a headache.
Have to live there in order to buy handguns and that stupid federal shit.
Yeah, and then to buy a rifle, it was like a fucking ordeal. So I was like, fuck this, dude. Like, whatever. So we decided at some point, we're like, oh shit, we can get tannerite while we're up here. I did not know that tannerite is illegal in Maryland. No fucking idea. The only state it's illegal in.
I knew you couldn't buy it in Maryland from guys at work, but I had never tried to go get it.
Yeah, well, so I googled it and it's illegal to.
Yeah, it's illegal to use, sell, or possess.
Yeah, it's basically considered a bomb, which it kind of
you have to have it. You have to have an explosives license to possess it.
Yeah, to possess tannerite. So yeah, so we were up there and we got to talking, and I was like, we finna get some tannerite. So Nick's Googling like where we can go, and he's like, oh, there's this gun store we can go to, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, bet. So we get to driving, we're driving, right? We're dicking around. We pull off, we're driving through a fucking residential neighborhood, right? And I'm just like, Nick's like, it's right here. I'm like, no, that's a house, Nicholas. I don't know if you know what a gun store looks like, but that's a house. And he's like, dude, I fucking swear. So we keep driving. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? So anyways, I'm just like, what the hell? I was like, call this motherfucker and see. I was like, this dude probably has an FFL out of his fucking house. You know, he's selling fucking tannerite. I was like, whatever. Like, I don't give a shit. I'm down for whatever. Like, I'm game. I got my shit on me. So it's like, if he wants to pull something, like run up and get done up. You know what I mean? So I was like, you know, and worst comes to shove, I'll just shoot Nick in the leg and he can take Nick's butthole. You know, it's no skin off my nose. So we fucking Nick calls this dude, right? And he's just like, this is Carl, you know, or whatever the fuck his name is. And Nick's just like, yeah, I'm looking at your address here on Google Maps and it says you're in a house. You know, I'm trying to buy some tannerite. And he's like, oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, I sell out of my house. I can have my wife run home. How much do you need? And me and Nick look at each other. I'm like, how much is it? So he tells us the price. And I'm like, why don't we get 20 pounds? And Nick's just like, yeah, we need 20 pounds. The guy's like, okay, let me call my wife. I'll call you right back. And hangs up the phone. And me and Nick look at each other in bewilderment, right? Because we're just like, there's no fucking shot. This man's wife is about to serve us tannerite. So he calls us back and he's like, yeah, so it's going to be, you know, 120 bucks for 60 pounds. Or, I wish it was 120 bucks for 60 pounds. 120 bucks for, 120 bucks for 20 pounds. So we're like, all right, bet. So he's like, yeah, I'll take your credit card. So I give him my credit card information. I give him my credit card information.
Over the phone.
And this dude's like, all right, I'm going to leave it on the front porch for you. And he's like, yeah, in like 10 minutes, go get it. So me and Nick are like down the fucking street.
Yeah, this homie's not even there. So he has his wife run home.
Yeah, so he has his wife run home. So we're sitting there in the truck just like listening to music. It's all quiet. I'm on my phone. I'm like, Nick, this is the most libertarian shit I've ever done in my entire life. We bought high explosives out of some dude's house in the middle of bumfuck New Hampshire, the freest state in the goddamn fucking United States. So we drive over, sure enough, we pull in man's driveway, and there's fucking 2 boxes of tannerite.
Just chilling on the bench in front of his door.
No big deal, right? Just sitting on the bench right in front of his door. and there's this meme, if you guys haven't seen it, from iCarly, where one of the characters, the older brother, I think, has an ostrich, and he's holding a smoothie. And they're like, what you got there? And he goes, smoothie. So me and Nick are walking up here, and I was like, what you got there? And he's like, smoothie. So that's our code name for our high explosives that may or may not be sitting in my closet.
Mine's about 5 feet behind me.
Yeah, you're probably looking at it right now. So yeah, we got some tannerite. I give some to my boss, and he's gonna blow it up at the shop. The shop is in the middle of Columbia. We're gonna blow up like half a pound of tannerite in the back of the shop. And me and Nick were talking too about possibly doing some more like IRL shit or whatever. Like I wouldn't say vlog because that's kind of corny, but like some IRL shit, like shooting guns or whatever other bullshittery we get into.
Motorcycles, guns, whatever dumb shit we want to do.
Yeah, fast car shit when my car stops fucking up. And so I was like, oh, we should go shooting. And I started thinking, I was like, we should, for some reason, this is how my brain works. I was like, I'm going to take a teddy bear, cut it open, and stuff it full of tannerite and blow it the fuck up.
See, the guys at work, I told them, I was like, yeah, I bought a bunch of explosives from this dude's house. He wasn't even home. And like, they were just like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm looking for stuff to blow up with it. They're like, you got to look on Facebook Marketplace for shit that's free. And I'm like, that is a beautiful idea. So I'm going through there. There's like washer machines and shit,
fridges and shit.
Yeah, and then he's like, he's like, you got to do like a baby doll. I was like, yeah, the baby doll's heads just like pop off. I can pour that shit in there, pop the head back on, dress it up, put it in a little stroller, and then blow this motherfucking baby up.
Yeah, well, shoot that bitch from like 150 yards away with a fucking 300 Win Mag or something.
Yeah.
Actually, probably 270 is the biggest caliber rifle you have, so we'll shoot that bitch with a 270.
Mm-hmm. And if anyone doesn't know about tannerite, it is a binary explosive, meaning that it can only be set off by something going 2,000 feet per second or more. They make more sensitive ones for like 22s and stuff, but that's, I guess, harder to find. It
requires a large energy transfer. It's binary.
Yeah.
Binary explosive. And it's also two parts, so it comes separate. So the two parts on their own, I could throw them both in a fire, and
nothing.
It would be fine. I mean, it would burn, but it wouldn't like explode or anything. But when you mix the two and there's a large energy transfer, that is what causes the explosion.
Yeah, like even if they were mixed and you just tossed it in the fire, that would still not explode. That is not an extent to which it would explode.
So you posted somewhere, I don't remember where, and it's probably best that I don't mention it, but you had posted, and I guess one of the guys was like, a little bit goes a long way, and I'm like, so what'll 3 pounds do? You know what I mean? Like the first thing I'm like, what can we blow up?
Yeah, he said a Coke can sized plastic jug sent a refrigerator 20 feet into the air.
Fuck yeah, Carl.
Yeah, like that is fucking metal.
So I saw this guy had a barn on YouTube. He put like 150 pounds of tannerite, leveled the fucking barn. Leveled it. Like nothing. Fucking sick. So me and Nick are probably going to stuff like 2 or 3 pounds of tannerite in a teddy bear and blow that motherfucker sky high just for the culture. For the kids.
It may or may not be on the 4th of July.
You know, when explosions happen.
Disguise.
Yeah.
And the truck will be running when that shot goes off.
So we can
get the fuck out of Dodge.
Yep. Do you? By the way, that reminds me. Sidebar. And if you have to cut this out, whatever. Do you have a place, or did we secure a place to do that?
I'm still looking around, and I have my dad asking some of his friends. Mm-hmm. And I said, keep out of the fact that it is me asking. He's like, yeah, I'll say it's someone, like, I'm just curious. I'm like, okay, just, I don't care who it is, it's just not me.
Yeah. It has to be low key. Yup, 100%.
And like, even if we have to go off into the mountains, middle of nowhere, and do it, like, we'll do it. Like, this shit's getting done.
Dude, it needs to be done. And I think we should do that. I want to shoot a fucking teddy bear with tannerite and blow that motherfucker up. So me and Nicholas are scheming. I think that's pretty much the trip. And then we had a fantastic drive home until Nick started road raging at people, and it was funny.
I made a 9.5 hour drive in 8.5 hours, by the way. Speed fucking racer.
Yeah, this motherfucker was hauling nuts.
While we had guns and explosives.
Yeah, so just to be clear, we had 3 loaded firearms and 20 pounds of explosives in the car, none of which were legal to own at any point from leaving New Hampshire on the way all the way back. Every single state we drove through was illegal to have.
Yeah.
So, and we're doing like 90 down the highway. Like just...
on the way up, I'm speeding fucking around. He's like, "Chill, yo, I got it on me." Or he's like, "I got a piece on me." I'm like, I got 2.
He's driving like a fucking dickhead. I'm like, "Yo, my shit is on me. Can you like settle down?" And he's like, "I got 2." I'm like, "That's a good point. Yeah, you never lied." So it was a fantastic trip. It was much needed.
I'd say it was a lot of fun, start to finish, for sure.
It was a blast all around. I got to hang out with my boy Nick, so that's always a good time, But it was an experience, and I'm glad that I had it with you because it was just our conversation and everything else, right? It's we did a lot of driving, and it's really cool to obviously like go out and do fun vacation type things, right? But I think it's more special when you're surrounded by people that you care about. So that was fucking sick.
Yeah. I think it was 1,560 miles ish of driving. So that is obviously a lot of talking.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, we talked about a lot of shit. We listened to a lot of really good music. Nick, I was very pleasantly surprised with his music taste. I know Nick listens to a little bit of everything, but there were some bangers in there that were tucked away, some deep cuts that I was very impressed made it onto his playlist. So it was all around. It was a fantastic time, and now I got this fucking bug where I'm firearms. I'm back on the tip. I got my stimmy. Did I tell you about that, Nick?
Yeah, I think I did see that you got that 300 blackout upper.
I got a 300 blackout, a 10.5-inch 300 blackout upper getting delivered to my fucking door.
Hell yeah.
And what I'm thinking, Nick, I wanted to call them. Nick and I both frequent a gun store. You think it would be cool if we said the name?
Shameless plug. They did not pay us for advertising or anything. Hanover Armory there, right off the same exit as Bass Pro Shops here in Anne Arundel County.
And it is
best guys in the world.
The environment's fantastic. They will walk you through everything. They will meet your needs, and they build their ARs in-house with lifetime fucking warranties.
Yeah, which at the moment I did see they are not taking any more maintenance or work done other than warranty work. I guess something happened. I'm not sure. But I've been shopping with these guys since I was 18. I love the shit out of them. I trust them. I am friends with one of the guys that work there. I can message him on Facebook if I ever have shit I need to know. I'm trying to build a Glock. And I was like, hey, man, just want to make sure I got all the parts I need. And he's like, yeah, you need this, 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 and this. I was like, sweet. Hey, man, my boy's trying to buy a Mac 10. What do we need for that? He's like, you just need to get somewhere with a Class 3 FFL, and they could just start doing the transfer. And we're like, oh, fucking bet.
Yup. So that is a thing that possibly might be in the works. I'm thinking about a Mac 10. I'm also contemplating other options. I would really like a transferable M16, but they're about $25,000 as it sits right now. I was looking at MP5s the other day because my dream would be to have like a small MP5K, like a little compact joint. They're fantastic. $45,000 right now is what they're trading for, transferable. Which instead of building my car, I could have just bought an MP5K.
You could have. And you would have saved money.
I still would have 10 grand left over. So we were just exploring different options. But what I'm thinking about doing, because they do such a good job, and they do all their Cerakoting in house. Like I said, they build everything custom, from the ground up. They have tons of different barrel options. They have different caliber options. They build all their rifles a bunch of different ways. Nick you have a 20-inch barrel Cerakoted with a fixed stock. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's a fixed stock. It's like a bluish, grayish color. I don't know. I'm colorblind.
It's like a beautiful nickel color. Yeah,
and I have run God knows how many rounds through it at this point, and not a single problem. I'm not even very good about cleaning it, and still not a single problem.
Not a single. And these are direct impingement. They're not even gas piston.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They're beautiful. I bought one after going with him to buy his. My parents are anti-gun, so I couldn't buy one in their house, and I will respect that. But when I moved out, one of the first things I did was buy a gun. So I went down to Hanover, and they hooked me up with a beautiful. Mine is just a standard 16-inch barrel. It's all black, M-lock foregrip, and just a standard M16 or not M16, M4 adjustable stock. And Nick and I when I got it, we ran, I don't know, probably 150-ish rounds through it, something like that, in the fucking snow. Steel case, not a single malfunction, runs like a top. Accurate as all fuck. I mean, it was less than $1,000. You can't fucking beat it. So, speaking of this 300 blackout, what I'm thinking I'm going to do is, so it's 10.5-inch upper. I'm thinking I'm going to go to them and get them to, because it's the top is the upper is Cerakoted, I believe burnt bronze, so it's a beautiful tan color and like a dark tan. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to get them to match it because it's a common gun color. I'm going to get them to match a lower and build an entire lower and sell it to me as a firearm. So that way I can just put the new upper on it. And then inevitably down the road, I have to get a tax stamp, and I guarantee that's a nightmare right now with COVID. But I am going to put a suppressor on that, and probably pin it. And it's just going to be a full length 300 blackout suppressed. That's going to be one of my toy rifles to dick around with. So I'm thinking about making my 5.56 AR. I'm thinking about making that like a not longer range, but putting like an ACOG on it with like a 4x zoom. And I'm thinking about keeping the 300 blackout as like a little more close quarters kind of. Like I'll take the holographic and put that on the 300 blackout rifle. But I'm fucking pumped for that build, dude. It was, and that whole upper, by the way, complete with the bolt carry, the BCG charging handle, and then the entire barrel assembly. And what was the other thing? It came with something else. Iron sights. It has iron sights on it. It's like $500.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So I got that, and I just need a complete lower. I'm wondering how Hanover's going to do it. They might have to build me a full. They might want to build me a full AR, and I'll just fucking take the upper off of it.
Yeah, which I have plenty of experience playing with guns, so I can swap anything out you need.
I watched one YouTube video.
Oh, it's easy.
I took my AR right apart. It's easy as fuck to take apart. Like, if I didn't have to mill a lower and build a lower, because I've never built one, but like the whole idea of like getting a parts kit and milling it, I was like, fuck that. I'd rather just buy a complete lower. But anyways, I know all the AR-15 shit's gonna work for it, so I'm just thinking, yeah, if they won't build me just a lower and sell it to me, because the lower is obviously what makes it a firearm. So I would think they would they would be interested in building me a lower and selling it to me for whatever. Maybe not. Again, if I have an extra 5.56 upper laying around, I'm not bitching about that. You know, whatever it is, what it is. Yeah. Maybe I'll get one with a 20-inch barrel. Who fuck knows. But anyways, so I am going to get in touch with them soon when my upper arrives. And I'm going to discuss that with them. I really wanted to get a integrally suppressed upper. Couldn't find one anywhere. They're impossible to find, and they're like $2,000. Like Sig makes one that's badass. It's like $2,300. It's like a 16-inch fucking. The whole barrel is a suppressor, and they run like fucking mint.
Yeah.
But anyways, this has been a super. How long have we been recording for? This has been a super long episode. I feel like
about an hour and 20.
Oh, nice. So I mean, I could, you know me, I can ramble on forever. I don't know if you wanted to cut it here or what are you thinking?
Yeah, we'll probably bring it to a close here. I still have work tomorrow and going to get the new bike that I bought with the Stimmy Indian FTR 1200 race replica.
Bad as shit.
Yeah, like I am pumped. It is a 1200 with an actual 1200 displacement. It is 1203, whereas it was built off their Scout Bobbers, which has like an 1132 displacement. So it's a pretty bad bike.
This thing fucks.
Yeah.
All right. It fucks. It's got all the modern tech in it, you know? Nick's going to fucking take the plate off. He's going to wheelie it, you know?
Yep. That's pretty much right when I get home. That plate bracket's whoop.
Nick is participating in thought activities with me this summer.
Yep.
So getting the Subaru built, I blew my axle out, so that's fun. I get to put an axle in it this weekend.
We can do a drag race. Me on my bike, you in the Subi.
I'll yank that fucking piece of shit down the fucking road, and I'll listen to smooth jazz while I'm doing it. Don't you forget, I'll listen to Kenny G while I'm fucking banging gears in that bitch.
Well,
but yeah, man, fucking the New Hampshire episode. It was awesome, and it inspired something in me, you know, to just. This is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll shut the fuck up. Something I talked about with Nick before we went is that I'm trying to just do shit. You know what I mean? Like if I think about something like, oh, I want to do this, and it's like feasible, and I can afford it, and I have the time for it, I'm just gonna fucking do it. You know, I want to start traveling more, so I'm just gonna fucking do it. I'm just gonna put my money where my mouth is and do it. You know, I want to. Nick's like, hey, I'm thinking about going to New Hampshire. Great, I'm taking off next, 3 weeks down the road. Let's fucking go. Let's do it. I don't give a fuck. Let's go. You know, so that was a great step in the right direction. I want a 300 blackout gun. Let's fucking do it. You know what I mean? Like, So that's how I'm rocking, and
Let's
it's
see. The last part of the New Hampshire family is down in, I believe, Port Charlotte, Florida. Ashley and CJ, love them. And their 4 daughters.
a lot of Nick, you know what this means, right?
A lot of daughters.
You're gonna have daughters when you have kids. It runs in the family. It's genetical. It's science.
Science.
It's science.
But maybe we'll head south, somewhere tropical for the next outing.
Hey, I'm pretty sure they got concealed carry laws in Florida.
Yep.
Just saying.
And with that, we are going to bring it to an end today. I do have a couple last things to add. As of March 30th, 2021, we will be on all platforms, courtesy of Anchor. I have the first 2 episodes are scheduled to go off the 30th and then the 6th, which I guess are technically reposts from the YouTube. But I wanted to start off strong, give us a couple of weeks so I can catch back up with editing.
Hell yeah.
So that's exciting. Starting to get somewhere. You may have we may be the worst podcasters you've ever heard of.
But you have heard of us.
And this will always remain your stepdaughter's favorite podcast. Thanks for coming and tuning in today. This has been the Top Kick Podcast. I am Nick, and with me, as always, is Max.
Go fuck your mom.